Hello! This is episode 5 of the What If I Fail podcast, and today we have Desislava Dobreva as our very first ever guest. Do you want to say hi? Do you want to tell people who you are?
Hi, I'm Des. For those of you who don't know me, I'm a keynote speaker and business mentor. I have been in business for about a decade at this point, and I help people build brands that command authority. And I help people create businesses that actually last because longevity is a thing, contrary to popular belief in the online space. And I've worked with people from over 50 different niches, maybe 100, but I haven't counted, so I'm just gonna go ahead and say 50. And I'm very, very excited to be here today because we are going to be talking about things that people don't usually ask me about. So let's go.
Yeah, and you were just the perfect first guest. Like, I knew I wanted you as the first guest because there are topics that I feel like people don't know about you, and people never ask you, and people never give you that opportunity to be human. Be like a human, right? You're this brand, you're this doll that everyone puts up and goes, a shining example. And no one remembers that you're actually a real human being behind it all. And that's what this whole podcast is about, is that, you can have success, but how can you do that without abandoning yourself? How can you make sure that you actually fulfill your needs as a human and not just this business owner? So, yeah, I'd love to hear your thoughts, because obviously personal branding is one of your main areas of expertise. And one of the big questions I'm asking on this podcast is, where's the line between the personal and the brand?
Ooh, what a way to start. Well, some people who are listening to this may know my core philosophy on brands, which is you are not your brand. If you're hearing this for the first time, it might come as a surprise because a lot of people in the branding and business field in general will always say, you are your brand, so act like it. And some years ago, that started really bothering me because I started seeing the consequences of us, myself included. I used to say that. I started seeing the consequences of teaching people this. I started seeing how it's leading them to see themselves, how it's leading them to make decisions in their business. And as a result, the perspective I've now adopted is that you are not your brand. Your brand is an extension of you. Because, let me tell you how I see it. With my brand, I see it as my brand expresses my thinking, my values, my voice, but it's still a container. It's not
Yeah.
my entire existence, right? If your brand is your entire identity, then what happens when, and I'm sure we'll be talking about this too, but what happens when someone challenges you, attacks you? What happens when your revenue dips, or even when your revenue is massively up? Every single thing that happens to you becomes this verdict on, am I worthy of this or not? And that really, I kept seeing that even with my own clients.
Yeah.
And now the message I try to put, no, I don't try. Now the message I put, I hate that word so much and it still finds a way to come up.
Yeah.
The message I put forward is that I am deeply expressed in my brand, but I'm not existentially dependent on my brand.
So it's interesting because the first experiences that I had of you, there's this huge dichotomy between the two representations of you that I saw, because I don't think many people dig as deep as I did. And one of the first things I saw was your TED Talk, which is you 10, 15 years ago, like a long time ago. And it's this deeply personal story of your history and what the online space kind of did for you and did to you and nearly did to you. And then the person that I was meeting in the real time 6 years ago was this incredibly controversial, baiting trolls, like not just responding to trolls, but baiting them so that you could respond to them, and just really trying to always put the cat amongst the pigeons. And so those two kind of versions, I was like, oh, okay. And then the new evolution of you, I would say, is much softer from both of those. So how do you see your evolution in this space?
It's been a journey. It's in 2017, by the way. 2018. It's only 8 years ago I did TEDx. Um, well, I was very controversial. I was also in a very different state of mind when I started my business back in, well, officially December of 2016. I don't even see it as I became less controversial or less polarizing. I see it as I became less performative because there's a difference between feeling like you need to provoke people
Yeah.
to be seen, which is exactly what I subconsciously was thinking. There's a difference between that and between just being open and saying the things, being honest, telling the truth because you're not afraid of being seen.
Yeah.
So that's the difference there. And I think that I used to, rather than actually being strong, I used to perform strength because I thought, well, this is what authority looks like. And I come from Eastern Europe, and that is what how we are raised. But now I'm actually strong enough to be honest. And one of my core philosophies is the trusting yourself is the key to everything. And the level at which you trust yourself really determines what your life and your business are like. And in time, the more I learned to trust myself, the less I needed to control how I was perceived.
Yeah.
And then interestingly, that's when people started seeing me more clearly, including you.
How scary was that?
I don't think I was, well, I mean, no, I was scared. I think I didn't realize at the time that it was fear. I think I just kept telling myself the story of, no, this is not how it's supposed to be. I need to have my armor on. If I don't have my armor on, I will not be respected. And yes, I was scared, but also I just really was a little bit ignorant because I didn't realize the real respect comes from people feeling safe, people feeling fully safe to be themselves around me.
Yeah.
And when someone is that performative, because they're like, if I don't push the boundaries, if I'm not controversial, I'm not, I don't know, I won't be seen, no one will notice me, no one will pay attention, no one will want to work with me. No one will feel safe to be fully themselves around me. I was inviting more performance into my life from clients, from friends, and looking back, I can see it. But at the time, of course, I didn't.
And I would say, and again, I've been in your world for like 6 years now, so I've seen the different people that come in and out of your world on a professional level, and the type of clients that you attract is wildly different now to who it was then, which is a good thing. Like, thank God.
This is true, and if we were to dig deeper, there are clients I attracted back then that are still in my world today.
Yes.
And those are the outliers. Those are the people who actually saw in me what I didn't see at the time.
Yeah.
And now they're sitting here like, haha, I told you so. I told you I saw something.
Guna must spend her whole life just saying those words over and over and over.
Over and over. She never stops. It's very annoying.
Yeah, we love her for it.
Yeah.
How does it... So I think one of the topics that I'm going to talk about with most of the guests that come on, because I think it is something... Well, it was a massive topic at the end of 2025 that came out because of one post. One guy put a post up about the inability to make friends when you have success, because success attracts a certain kind of entitlement, I guess, to, well, I want to have that same success, so I'm going to attach myself to you and hope that I can like steal it via osmosis. And I think there's definitely, I've definitely seen it even in my own life. I've seen it definitely happen with you and a lot of other people, of people trying to get close to you, not because they want to know you better or be there for you, but because they want something from you. But what I found really interesting about that post was everyone was in agreement that you cannot possibly make friends when you're successful. Like, it's impossible. Until you pipe up and you're like, I've made my best friends since being successful, actually. And then a lot of people are like, yeah, me too. Mm-hmm. Yeah, me too. Yeah, same. And I find that really hilarious on two levels. Firstly, the performance aspect of, oh no, we were performing that we're all too successful to make friends, and then she's screwed that over for us, and now we have to be successful and have friends because that's the next level of success.
I do that a lot for people.
It's so ridiculous. But tell us about that. Tell everyone how that kind of, because friendship's a big deal, and I think it's something that you have experienced in different ways throughout your life.
As you know, as some people listening may know, I've struggled with this for a very long time, up until my 30s, really. I'm giving away my age. I'm 25, guys, just in case someone asks. And you have actually witnessed me let go of this in real time, which is such a rare thing. Up until, I want to say 2023, was it? When some of us went to a retreat in Greece. And up until that time, I very much was one of the girl boss, don't trust anyone. And I'm not gonna lie, when I'm my highest self, I know this is bullshit. We're not always connected to our highest selves 24/7, every second, right? So when I'm not connected to it, of course, there's residue. But there was more than residue in 2023. I had these beautiful people around me. I had a group of what I considered friends. They considered me a friend, but there was this unspoken thing between us that I hadn't fully opened up. There were things that I was hiding because I was scared of how they would perceive me if they found out. And it wasn't anything crazy at all. There was that part of me that grew up in a country where you're not supposed to be fully open and have the armor on, because the more armor you have on, the more they'll fear you, the more they'll respect you, the more they will want to be around you. If you give them everything, why would they want to keep being around you? It's crazy. But that's how a part of the world grows up. And I remember voicing that in front of all of my friends during that retreat, which was also led by a friend of mine. Talk about, were you scared? That was the most terrifying experience probably of my entire life. I was sitting there crying my eyes out, saying to these people, like, can I trust that you really are my friends? And what I was met with in return was just the most beautiful demonstration of friendship I had ever seen. And for a moment there, I'm even getting emotional thinking about it. But for a moment there, my success didn't matter. Nothing, my business, our businesses, our brands, nothing mattered. All that mattered was that we are these people in this room that have formed the genuine connection. And I, for the first time, got to see that, and I saw that it was real. And that is where this tattoo came from, which is of two female silhouettes bonded by a red thread, which one of my friends drew, and I got tattooed the next day, I think it was.
Yeah.
At this point, I don't even remember your question, but what else? Something else I want to say about friendship with success is I always ask myself, what is the benefit for us? One of my clients, Georgina, loves this question. What's the secondary benefit?
Yeah.
What is it? What's the secondary benefit of us telling ourselves the story that I can't have real friends if I'm successful? Well, great for the ego. Certainly, right? Well, I'm just so successful. No one understands me. Everyone's problems are completely universal.
Yeah.
Do I deal with them at a slightly different level than a lot of other people? Do more things pop up? Do I have to hold more responsibility? Sure. But it's the same problems. So everyone listening to this, if you're telling yourself this story, absolute bullshit. And I've never been happier than I am at this moment, knowing that I have a genuine group of people around me that I don't have to worry why you're around, and I don't have to be like, I have this person I can connect my friend to and they can be a speaker at their event, but what if I do and that's the only reason there's none of that. It's completely dissipated now.
I mean, the benefit is that, you managed to choose really successful friends. Like, at least you didn't choose anyone that was a moron. And we were we love them as a person, but they're shit at business. So luckily it's a group of people, and we all and part of that's why we're friends, right? Because we all have the same values and standards. we all believe in and being our best selves and constantly challenging ourselves and pushing ourselves and driving ourselves and progressing and evolving.
Yeah, and
And
it really is a testament to you
yeah.
guys because I mean, I'm not gonna lie, if I was in your position and I was dealing with something like me, I don't know how long my patience would have stretched because there's only
Mm.
so much of pushing you away
Oh,
that I
you've
could
held us
deal
at
with.
arm's length for a long
At
time.
an arm's length, yeah, at two
Yeah.
arms lengths and a foot and
Yeah.
a toe. And you persevered. And I remember you saying something to me that is the most incredible thing anyone's ever said to me, which was my goal right now, I will make it my sole goal in life to show you
Yeah.
what true friendship can be.
Yeah.
And every time I think about that, I mean, look,
Yeah.
I just, that's rare. That's really
Yeah.
rare. And I wouldn't have received that if I hadn't let the mask slip at least a little bit. The Eastern
Yeah.
European mask, that is.
Well, and I think it's not as it shouldn't be as rare because like I look at my life and like my friendships, and for me, it's not something I've ever. We grew up in very different worlds. You grew up in that, keep the armor on, never show emotion. My family and I, like, we cry together, we laugh and cry at the same time. Like, my dad and I can trigger ourselves into tears by talking about the memory of another time that we cried. Like, and we'll just sit there and be like, oh, isn't this ridiculous? We're crying together about nothing. Like, there's nothing going on right now. And so I grew up in this hugely emotional world of it's okay to express your emotions and it's okay to do that, and that you should just give freely and receive freely, and that's the human spirit. And so I'm like, this isn't rare, this shouldn't be rare. But what's rare is people allowing themselves to receive. And I think that's the part that can feel the most scary because there's that kind of what does it mean about my identity if I let go of doing it all by myself, only ever everything by myself? Like, what does it mean about me?
Yeah, and I definitely think, not to get too conspiratorial on this podcast, definitely think there is a worldwide agenda for, I mean, look at men and women and how much
Mm-hmm.
dissonance there is between those two genders right
Yeah.
now. And look at how many women, especially female entrepreneurs, have adopted the mentality that I'm better off alone, or if I have a husband, he's gonna stay at home, watch the kids, and I'm gonna be the girl boss. And there's nothing wrong with the husband staying at home watching the kids. Do you notice how when they share that story,
Yeah.
oftentimes the man is completely emasculated and
Yeah.
the woman is this masculine girl boss, which is so funny, masculine girl boss.
Mm-hmm.
But that's how they
Yeah.
describe themselves. We've been in some Facebook groups where we've seen a lot of that.
Yeah.
Thankfully, I'm kicked out now, so I don't get to see it anymore. But I see it over and over again. I made $3 million this year, and I went on a date with a man. This is a true post, and he didn't perceive my success that way I wanted him to perceive my success in the first 5 minutes when I told him I made $3 million this year. Can you imagine when your success becomes your entire identity? I can if it was mine. But
Yeah.
can you imagine how much it pushes every single people in your life away except the people who are there for the wrong reasons?
Yeah. And that's exactly it, isn't it? It's the performance, and it's when your brand becomes everything about yourself, and your success is the only thing that
Yeah.
you have. You don't have anything else. And what I find really fascinating about your work is actually the work that no one knows that you do, because you don't talk about it very much, because it's like the really high level reputation management side of like crisis management. Shit's gone, shit's hit the fan, something's come out, now we need to do a lot of the high level work. And you do share some like case studies when you see people like Blake Lively or like different people online. You'll talk about some of this, but you don't share the work that you actually do with real people. But I think the perception and reputation management and what happens when people get it wrong, because we are actually human. Is there is it the people that make their brand their identity that struggle the most with fucking up and actually failing and creating that reputation drama?
Oh, definitely. And I think they also perceive reputation in a strange way, because a lot of people think my reputation is who I am.
Yeah.
And I understand where that's coming from, but it's again connected to I am my brand.
Yeah.
Your brand is not who you are. Your reputation is not who you are either, because reputations can be changed. Your reputation is simply the shortcut that people use to make sense of who you are, right?
Yes.
And with what I do, my job is not to control what people think. That's also a misconception. It is to make the most accurate story the easiest one to tell.
Yeah.
That's really what branding is all about in reputation management.
How does it feel? Because your reputation, I think, has changed quite a lot. And this is, we touched on this earlier about how much you've softened and how the performative controversy was one thing. But even you still, the way that you deal with trolls has brought you so many clients. Like the number of people that have specifically said, I bought your work, I paid to work with you because of how you deal with trolls on your ads and on your posts and on your videos. Because you still attract a lot of them. You are a pretty white, Eastern European woman. That how dare you be successful, dear God. You a lot of rage baiting happens. You bring a lot of people to you, and the way that you deal with them, there's parts of me that I'm still to this day, I look at it and I'm like, oh, did we just misunderstand what they were saying? Is there a kinder way to do this? And you're like, no, they're being a dick. I'm gonna be a dick back. It's okay.
Yeah, I have a unique perspective on this. And listen, I have healed a lot of parts of how I grew up that weren't necessarily who I wanted to be. There are some parts about who I am I'm not interested in changing or healing. And one of those things is, if someone treats me with disrespect, I'm not going to be I'm not the one. I'm not the one that turns the other cheek. I'm not the one that goes, oh, I feel for you. They're there, unless it's condescending.
Yeah.
I give back what people give me. And it's interesting to me how people in the Western part of the world are not used to this. I will have a piece of content put up, and I'm not even speaking about trolls. These are people that I've been connected with for years. It happened recently. I would put up a post, and people who misunderstand it, which is completely fine. I think you should be willing to be misunderstood if you're going to build a brand and be a leader. But people who misunderstand it would then come and attack you in a certain way. And when I respond with the same energy, but more respectfully, because that's the key for me, they're in shock, because they either expect you to fold or they expect you to become disrespectful, ad hominem attacks like they did. And when they get none of that, they just don't know what to do with me. So that's been interesting to observe. As for trolls, actual trolls, yes. I mean, I get a lot of those, especially on ads. As someone who runs ads, I always warn my clients, you have to be mentally ready for this. It's not just about putting some money into an ad. This is you're unlocking a new level of visibility that will reveal a lot of your wounding. And I do respond to some of those comments, but when I do it very intentionally, and I'm never responding to the troll. I'm never responding to the actual person. I'm responding to everyone watching how I handle being attacked or being challenged, because all I care about is earning people's trust and, of course, having some fun. But earning people's trust is what I think we should all be focused on. And there is another layer to this, because you said, as an Eastern European woman, successful, blah, blah. Yeah, that plays a part in it. I think some of us each person has their purpose. I've come to realize that my purpose in life is to activate people. And when you spend time with me, you do tend to feel activated without me doing much. It's somehow a part of my presence. The thing is, though, as you know, some people will feel empowered, some people will feel liberated, some people will feel threatened, exposed, etc. And so it reveals where you are right now in your state of mind. And it reveals what people were already carrying.
Yeah. What I find really interesting, the way that people tell stories about their own reaction to you, And this is something you and I connect on because we're both massive nerds ultimately and both read quite a lot of like philosophy and psychology and all of that stuff. The way that they choose their words and what it says about their wounding or their past is really interesting. The number of times the word triggered comes up, and it's like triggered and activated, they're exactly the same thing, right?
Yeah.
That is exactly the same thing, but activated feels way more positive. Triggered feels like, oh, I had this negative reaction, I had to really work to overcome it.
Yeah.
And I think it's really interesting the way that people, even when you're the good guy in their stories, you were initially the bad guy.
Yeah, I've seen that a lot, including with friends. There's very few people in my life who haven't said that to me, which is what got me into a lot of reflection. And after a few years, I realized that this is what my purpose seems to be, whether I want it or not. And that's the thing about purpose. This may be a controversial view, but I don't think your purpose is a choice. I think it finds you, you don't find
Yeah.
it. And when it finds you, you have to surrender to it. And part of mine is that I'm a mirror. And what I found is that there's this interesting thing about mirrors. They are rarely blamed for the things they reflect if you're dealing with, people at a high level of consciousness and awareness, except when the reflection is inconvenient, in which case, let's blame the mirror. Let's not look inward. And
Yeah.
obviously, that's rampant in the world and in the online coaching space as well.
It's interesting because the online coaching space, online entrepreneurialism, but like very much online, not entrepreneurialism as a whole, because startups, I just feel like they don't go through this. But the online world, self-reflection and like personal growth and like digging into your own core philosophies and your standards and like that real like taking a look at yourself is such a massive part of this job.
Yeah.
And it's weird because it just doesn't happen in normal life. Like people are going about their day and they're just doing their job and stuff triggers them and they go, oh, I'm really pissed off. And then they move on. And we go, oh, I'm really pissed off. Why am I pissed off? What does that say about me?
Let me journal on it. Let me do some work. Let me talk to my therapist and my 3 coaches.
Yeah.
Which, again, there's a duality to it. That can also be taken to the extreme. And then I think that's what leads people into this state of inaction too, because
Yes.
I've now discovered 3 new things about me I have to heal before I can have sales conversations, be
Yeah.
visible. The amount of time I've had to go back to a client and say, well, what the fuck? You've been in business for 5 years and you're afraid of selling and you're afraid of being visible and you're
Yeah.
telling yourself you're not ready until you do all of this work.
Yeah.
Why? Humans are complex, interesting beings that can hold we can multitask, right? Multitask. So you can do the work, you can continuously be doing the work because that's what leadership is, and you can be making money.
Yeah.
This is a business, and your business does not care about your feelings, about what you're ready for, or about who triggered you today.
Yeah. And it's interesting because obviously the season of life that I'm in right now, everything that's going on in my personal life, this whole duality of hold the personal like reflections, allow the healing to happen, work through the whole process that it is, and maintain the momentum and allow the momentum and show up and be seen and allow myself to be seen, because there's a huge amount of it is not just being seen, it's accepting that it's okay to be seen and it's okay to keep going. And I think for me, the thing that I see the most is when reflection becomes the addiction. When people are so addicted to peeling back the layers or just poking the same fucking wound and they're like, it's not healed yet. And I'm like, because you're not leaving it alone.
Yeah.
Like, if you stopped picking the scab, it would heal. Like, leave it alone.
It's not healed yet.
Yeah. And it's like,
mean,
you have
Also,
to...
some things never will be, to be honest.
Yeah,
I think we
exactly.
forget that sometimes. If you remember, I wrote an entire blog post called Autopsy Girl. Because I get it. And I
Yeah.
think part of my shadow is I can very easily slip into dissecting, this like state of cognitive dissection of everything. And even if there isn't an actual problem, you can invent one
Yeah.
just to give yourself something to fix. And depending on your particular flavor of fucked up, which we all are, then it could even be you inventing something to fix because you then get to feel something. Because I think a lot
Yes.
of people are very numb, is what I've
Mm.
noticed.
Even within businesses, one of the within my membership, there's a phrase that goes around now that came from a metaphor where literally I would just say to someone, I'm like, stop renovating your bathroom. And the joke is that like we've built this glorious house and we've, you know, made it and we've built every room out and we've decorated and we've run out of things to build. And so we're going, I'll just knock the bathroom down again. I'm just going to redo it in another colour or another setup. And I'm like, you don't need to always be renovating the bathroom. Like, at some point, you've done the building of your business, and now we need to just go into the next stage of business. And sometimes renovations are going to need to happen,
Yeah,
but
of course.
not 30 seconds after you finished building it.
Honestly, there's a whole segment of coaches in the online space that, and this is the thing, people will, I like to live in the nuance, not in the extreme. Some people will say, no, everyone's a good person, or no, they're all evil, horrible human beings. I
Yeah.
think a lot of it is just lack of awareness. But there is a whole segment of people who will lead these identity driven programs and masterminds and one-to-one work where they will be reopening
Yeah.
wounds for people that were almost healed, and it's almost this state of re-traumatizing them, because
Yes.
if you can't heal without constantly, and that's what you were referring to with the bathroom, without
Mhm.
constantly re-traumatizing yourself, then
Yeah.
the healing doesn't feel valid. Like it
Yeah.
has to leave a mark, or you just didn't learn anything.
Well,
And
I
I
think.
find that quite disturbing. I've been in spaces like that,
Mhm.
and obviously I grew up in a very chaotic environment. I grew up in chaos, so I became hyper attuned. So I really love to study people, and I really
Yeah.
love to like look for signs and to analyze, because it keeps me in control and it makes me feel safe. That's one of my shadows. um, but when I've been in a space like that, it can be so triggering,
Mm.
because even when you say to them, like, I'm okay, I just need to do this. No, but are you really
Yeah.
okay? Why don't we analyze these five things that may be pointing to the fact that you're not okay?
Yeah.
Against your will and without consent. That bothers
Yeah.
me.
I think there's, as much as there's an addiction in us to constantly reflect, I do think there's a subsection of coaches who are addicted to breakthroughs. Like
Oh
they
yeah.
their only way of judging their worth as a coach and the only way of like seeing their ability is for someone to be like, "Oh my god, I just had a massive breakthrough."
Yeah.
And so they build their coaching containers around generating these breakthroughs. And all of their sales pages and all of their social media is about, oh, there was this great breakthrough, there was this massive breakthrough, this happened. And I'm like, yeah, how many times has that one client had that very same breakthrough and never done anything with it? Like, why are we not implementing? Like, why are we not doing anything?
I've actually had a couple of clients this past year that were dealing with that. So one of them once came to me after one of her program calls, and she's this incredibly powerful woman, which
Mm.
goes to show that it doesn't matter. We all can slip into this way of thinking,
Yeah.
regardless of how much work on ourselves we've done, and it doesn't mean we're broken and we need to heal. But she was like, no one at the end of the call told me how amazing it was and how big of an aha moment they had. And I'm worried now that I'm not delivering. So for her, it came from a place, sure, there's ego, but it came from a place of, is this good? Maybe my
Yeah.
material sucks now.
Mm-hmm.
What I had observed is that she had now become so confident, secure, and comfortable in a healthy way, teaching this and creating these transformations in people that, and she wasn't attracting people who were addicted to the breakthrough. So she wasn't used to this new cohort of humans who are at a higher level of consciousness, who are
Yeah.
not constantly sitting there going, oh my God, this is mind blowing, you're the queen.
Yeah.
And I've been through this myself. I always have a mix of people, because especially when someone's new to your world, of course, if
Mm-hmm.
they're not used to this level of depth, they'll, wow, this is mind blowing. But for the most part, I actually, when I put my ego aside, That's not what matters. What matters is that it's truly landing for people in a way that makes them reflect deeply to the
Hmm.
point that sometimes they're not going to even think about going to the chat in Zoom and saying, wow, you are the queen of the world, Des.
Yeah. For me, I love it when I start to see my words on other people's walls. I'm like, you might not have told me you had a breakthrough, but I'm seeing my way of speaking showing up in how you're explaining yourself. So clearly it's landed because you're now like building upon it. Like, not so much if they were just literally taking my words and then throwing them out there, I'm like, fuck off, bitch, like, that's mine. But when someone has taken it and it has been so deeply integrated into their psyche that they're now changing how they think about stuff, like for me, I'm like, oh, I did really good. Like, look, it's evidenced everywhere. Even if I'm not tagged and the rest of the world hasn't been shown how incredibly genius I am, which is my
Which you
core
are.
wound, I feel like once a day someone should tell me I'm a
You're a
genius.
genius, Alex.
Thank you. I needed that.
Good.
But it's one of those things where I think that's when you can see it's really made a difference in coaching. And I think coaching is such an honor, but it is such a deeply misguided industry. And I think
Hmm.
there's some really terrible things that have happened and people that have just taken coaching and really screwed them up. And it's
Yeah.
bad for the industry.
And that's why there's a lot of talk about things like regulations, which I personally don't think that's gonna change much.
Hmm.
And again, I don't think most of them are, or I think 99% of them are not these evil people who want to fuck people up at all. I think most of them actually do come from good intentions. Um, I think that a lot of the coaches themselves are very unconsciously uncomfortable with stability.
Hmm.
And so that is part of why they're so addicted to the breakthrough. That is why they're so
Yeah.
addicted to being controversial for the sake of controversy. They don't trust consistency and repetition and
Yeah.
ease. And so they create this chaos to feel alive. And because they don't see that about themselves, that's the client they attract. That's how they impact and influence their clients as
Yeah.
well. And that's not good.
Yeah. And you know what? What came up when you were saying that as well? Something you and I talk about regularly is risk taking and investments that haven't gone well, and how we learn from them. And I think the people, the more that we have, the more we accept that not every investment is going to go well, the more we're likely to take those investments because we can learn something even when it hasn't gone well. But I do find that a lot of the coaches that do badly don't have coaches themselves. Like,
Ooh.
they're not investing because they're like, no, I'm at such a high level, like there's no one ahead of me anymore, so I have no one to learn from. And it's that point at which their investments stop or change and go into a different direction that you're like, that's why you're not evolving anymore, and your lack of evolution is holding back everyone that you're helping.
Yeah, there's a lot of that. Without saying too much, there are spaces where that's exactly what has been observed is they did so much work on themselves to the point where they built this incredibly successful business, brand that everyone drools over. And at the um, lower ticket levels, when you join their membership, when you join a mid-ticket program, you can't feel that the work has stopped and that the leadership has deteriorated because you're not in that much of close contact with them. But then you join the mastermind, you pay, I don't know, hundreds of thousands of dollars for one-to-one, and then you're sitting there thinking, wow, did they really just say this to me? Did I really just hear from the person I've observed and looked up to for so long that there's nothing, no one ahead of them, so they can't get. What does that even mean
Yeah.
financially? Because
Hmm.
that doesn't determine who's ahead of you. That's ridiculous,
Yeah.
right? And it's wow. And I understand I think one of the things to discuss there is imposter syndrome because I feel
Mm.
like maybe you build this massively successful business. Part of it is your ego. Your ego is making you believe that, well, that's it. I have it all. The work is done. They're going to worship me anyway. But then there's this imposter syndrome of like, well, no, I can't be paying someone else for support because then they'll feel like I'm not the ultimate person
Yeah.
that they should be working with. I've seen this too. I don't
Yeah.
want a coach because then people will just go to my coach, which
Yes.
is a
Yeah.
wild perspective to have.
Yeah. Why would I learn it from you when I could go direct to source?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which just makes me feel like you do not understand anything about business, building
Yeah.
a brand, perception. People don't buy because of how much they're paying you or who your coach is. They're buying because of who you are.
Mm-hmm.
It's just very it's very disappointing when we witness that.
What's your experience of imposter syndrome? Because people, I think, would look at you, especially people that have known you for such a long time, and would say, "Oh, Desi never like she never has like imposter syndrome." Even to the point where I've had people say to me, "Oh, like she won't be friends with me. Like she's way too like so confident and so glamorous and just untouchable. Like she definitely doesn't understand what it's like to have imposter syndrome." So, like that's got to be false, right? You definitely have.
I mean, watch my TEDx talk, guys. I
Mm.
look like a different person. That's because I partly am, but like when you ignore the hair, just listen
Yeah.
to what I'm actually saying there. I've dealt with it my entire life. It used to really hurt me that people would say these things about me and that they would perceive me that way because why am I so misunderstood? And then I realized that, like I said, you have
Mm-hmm.
there's duality to everything. If you're this confident and this secure in yourself, of course there will be people who feel like normal rules of life don't apply to you. You just move through life with it's easy breezy, everything comes easily. I get that. So I don't feel resentful toward it anymore, which has been huge for me. When
Mm-hmm.
it comes to imposter syndrome, I don't see it as something to overcome. I think that's what people are getting when they think she's so confident she's never dealt with it. The
Yeah.
fear, imposter syndrome, resistance, like one of our mutual friends, Melissa, says everything's an invitation. And rather than getting rid of these things, I treat them, take imposter syndrome, I treat it as a part of me that shows up when I'm stretching into something new. And
Yeah.
how beautiful is that, right? I
Mm-hmm.
like to do these deep visualizations where I actually give it a shape. I sometimes a name.
Mm.
Hi, Jake. Why Jake? I have no idea.
Amazing.
It's such an American name too.
Yes.
When I give it a shape, I let it speak. I actually have full-blown conversations with these parts of myself. Because when you do that, it stops being this vague, oppressive feeling and it becomes an actual voice that you can respond to. There's clarity around it now.
Yeah.
And so I let it walk with me because it's literally pointing the edge to the edge of my expansion. Like if I
Yeah.
waited, think about it. If you sit here and you're just, well, I need to get rid of my imposter syndrome. Let me wait for it to disappear until I can go do the things I want to do. You would
Mm-hmm.
never do anything. And that is the problem with most people. They are constantly at war with themselves because
Yeah.
this is a part of you and you're trying to get rid of it. So
Yeah.
you're at war with yourself instead of being in this beautiful dialogue. That's how I perceive it anyway. And it's
100%.
I mean it's helped me build everything that I have.
Yeah. And I something I'm going through with a lot of my clients now, because the people that are in my membership, they are the people they've already experienced success to a certain level, and the way that I've kind of brought them in is like they're in a plateau, like they've hit that kind of they're about to hit their next threshold, but they can't quite get there because what's got them here hasn't got them there. And the thing that I keep reminding them of in here is that every time you hit a threshold, you get then like it's another level, another devil, like something else will come up. But if you look at it and you go, oh, I'm not getting results anymore, and I'm not gonna, everything feels sticky, and I don't feel like myself anymore, and I'm just gonna burn it all to the ground and go again because clearly I've reached the end. Whereas actually you could just go to that and be like, ooh, okay, everything's going to shit a little bit, which means that the next one is so close. Like it
Yes.
is within reach. And if I can just push through a little bit, I get to go to the next level, but I have to overcome this hurdle first. And I
Yeah.
think that's what 2025 was for me. Like 2024 was hard with mum being sick, And then 2025 was like, okay, you know what? Like, I don't need to go into Phoenix mode. I don't need to burn everything to the ground. Let's just rebuild this brick by brick. And that's got me to where I am now. And I genuinely, you know, I've said this to you before. It was when we were in New York and we were in Times Square, and I was stood having my photo taken in Times Square, looking like a boss, like feeling like the coolest I've ever felt in my entire life. And there were people, like, Times Square is busy, like, so busy. And people were staring at us like, who are these girls, like, having this photo shoot in the middle of Times Square? And I was like, it landed. I was like, oh my God, I'm on the new threshold. Like, I've leveled up. Like, this is the new level. I don't have to, like, I'm not going to drop back down anymore. Like, I feel like I'm on solid footing. And I do think that hitting that just before everything happened, like, obviously I wouldn't want it to have happened quite so soon, but having hit it, having had it land and then deal with everything has really allowed me to hold on and not fall backwards, which I think if I was still grasping at it when everything had happened, it might have all fallen apart a lot more. So I think there's an element of time wise, it has worked out for me in a weird way. But I think there's this, like, I'm trying to work out the point that I'm trying to make here. It's this, you know, the imposter syndrome that was there. The results were harder and harder. Everything felt so much more difficult. And pushing through and letting it land, suddenly I'm in, you know, what could realistically be some of the worst time of my entire life. And yet I'm still showing up. I'm still selling, I'm still doing business, I'm still helping other people. And if anything, the depth of my coaching is so much more now. I think I'm helping people even more now than I did before because of moving through and processing with movement rather than just kind of going, need to stay really still and not let anything touch me because this is too much.
Yeah, and I witnessed that in real time with you. And
Yeah.
I remember the Times Square, and I think for a few of you guys, it felt that way, and it unlocked this deep sense of knowing that no matter what, from now on, I will be okay. And that's what I've had for a very long time. And you talked about risk taking. I think that's why, even though my core thing will always be financial stability, I will take risks. I will take bigger risks than a lot of the people take around me.
Yeah.
I will just bet on myself more than anyone I know. Yet, I do it because I have this deep sense of knowing that what's the worst that can happen? Whatever happens to me, I'm being invited into something.
Yeah.
And I just accept that invitation quicker than most people do, I think.
Yeah.
Not to in any way compare this to what you've been through these last few months, because you know I can't. But last year for me was a very transformational year, what with leaving a 14-year relationship and having to navigate life for the first time in my life by myself. I'd never been by myself until 2025. Isn't that wild at 34? And there's been a lot that comes with that, and it's been very hard. It was the most bittersweet year of my life because it was both pure heartbreak and pure happiness at the same time for so many reasons. But the point here is that my identity, me unlocking this identity, me feeling that deep sense of knowing, it didn't come after, just like with you, it came before the thing that happened that could have, you know,
Derailed everything.
Yeah, derailed me, because we've seen how other people have dealt with similar situations, yours and mine. And we've seen what's happened and how it leads you to spiral, etc. And that's a normal human reaction. I'm not in any way saying, oh, shame on you. No, I think that's what you thought would happen. That's what I thought would happen. For a moment there. And now I understand that, wow, I can trust who I am. Like, I can trust that I am so solid in who I am that I can get through anything. Even if I spiral for a little bit, I will always come back to myself. And I don't think everyone else feels that way.
Yeah. And certainly something that I've very much learned from you is that, and it is that, the kind of almost bringing it back to that very first thing of, you are not your brand. So your brand can exist even when you are spiraling, right? Even when the stuff is going on for you and you are having those moments, it's okay to have a little bit of separation of self that goes, I can spiral and not everyone needs to know all of the details of what's going on for me. Key people will, and not everyone, it doesn't need to be fully public, but also it doesn't need to be so fully private, because that's where we enter shame, where we're like, I have to hide. That's where we're like, oh, then I'm operating from shame. So we can be like, guys, I'm spiraling, but I'm okay publicly. Like, this is fine. I can operate within this duality. And I think that knowing of yourself and knowing that you can still show up for your clients and give them everything that they need and honor the commitment that they've made to you and that you've made to them, whilst also being human and having real life happen at the same time. And it can be shit.
And it often is, and I tend to be quite open about what I'm navigating with my clients. I'll go live in BBS and sometimes I'll cry and I'll be like, guys, I'm navigating this. This is really tough. And here's like what I'm learning from it. And I'll do that in real time. Will I do it publicly? Most of the time, not. I mean, I started my blog last year, which was a huge thing for me, letting the mask slip even more, the armor come down even more, come off. But I just think you don't owe people anything, unless they're paying your bills. I just don't think you owe them anything. And someone might say, well, no, you owe them to be in your highest self because you committed to a position of leadership. I think it's the opposite. I think that a position of leadership means you're tested and challenged in real time every day, and you won't always show up vulnerable. You won't always show up in your highest self, and you won't always be ready immediately to talk about what's going on, because you're human, and that is what will always separate us from AI, which undoubtedly, like in 5 years, are we even gonna be real anymore? It's just gonna be two AI avatars in this fucking interview. But to bring it back to your point about you can still serve your clients and embrace the duality, something on that topic is, I think it was in the beginning of this interview, I said your business doesn't care about your feelings. I think people will definitely choose to misunderstand that and say, what a cold-hearted bitch. What I actually mean, and feel free, but what I actually mean is your feelings are real and your feelings are valid, and some days are horrible days. And so, like, I had a really tough week this week that just passed, for instance. It was like thing after thing happening, and I was sitting here like, what the fuck is happening to me next? And obviously you have to take yourself out of that mentality. And nothing changed in how I show up for my business or my clients. So my feelings are real, they're valid. What they are not is a reliable decision-making framework. Okay? Because if I only showed up when I felt confident and good and secure, my business would have joined many other people's businesses and died many years ago.
Well, and I think that is why you have survived as long as you have in business. And it's wild because I was at a networking session last week and someone said to me, like, oh, how long have you been in business? And I was like, oh, well, shit, 6 years. When did that happen? When did it become 6 years, like over half a decade of being in business and keeping going? And I think you being the example that was set to us of, you can't rely on it always being great timings wise, and you can't rely on you always feeling your absolute best, your most confident, and you can't even rely on the fucking market to always be up. The only thing that you can rely upon is making decisions well, making decisions quickly, and implementing the work and just doing the goddamn work.
Yeah.
That you can trust in.
And when you fuck up, guess what? You don't take 5 years to disappear and go, oh man, I have to process and integrate, and I'm gonna show up again when I feel ready. I show up messy, imperfect, chaotic. It doesn't matter to me. The thing will get done. The business will move forward. This is my livelihood. This is me having committed to serving every day. And so I will continue to do that. And listen, am I always going to be fully able to give 100% of myself? No. but we can then trust that with the work that we've done on ourselves and with the lived experience we have in this business, our 50%
Yeah.
is, I mean, not to sound harsh, but it's better than a lot of people's
Well, yeah.
90%. And that's the whole point. That's why we do the work that we do.
Absolutely. And I think, the expertise that we have is based on the learning that we've done, not based on what we're going through at any one time. And I think that is another big part of it, is just, at the end of the day, I can fall back on my brain. And that's like, that works despite everything else. I can switch off the emotions. I can fall back to, okay, but where's the structure here? Where's the strategy? Where are we, pull it back to the foundations and the basics. And that lets you still do your job without it needing to be about, I am my highest self all of the time.
All of the time. But Alex, the thing is, like, what you said is only true if you actually have a working brain cell.
This is true.
Just a reminder to you.
Yeah. Yeah. You have to have some, and this is, you know what, I said this on a recent masterclass, and I was like, this is a really controversial topic, but you actually have to have something valuable to sell to make money. If you don't have anything valuable, you can't just be paid to exist. Like, that's not a thing. Maybe in 2020 it was.
Yeah, things have
It's
changed.
not a thing anymore. You have to have something of value. And if you
Yeah.
don't have something of value to sell in the first place, to kind of sum it all up, like, you do really activate people because you are so honest about your lived experience and how that there is a separation and also there isn't a separation. It's a personal brand and also it's a brand. And so you can, this duality that you live your life in, I think the way that you allow yourself to evolve publicly. Like, yes, you show up messy, but you show up messy because the evolution is coming. And I think, even in the last 6 years that I've known you, the number of evolutions that you have gone through, like the wild changes, they've not felt really jarring. Although, obviously you go back and watch the TED Talk now, you're like, oh, who is that girl? Like, what the hell? But it's not jarring now because you've evolved publicly. You've not disappeared and come back as a different person.
No, I don't ever need to make one of those posts of I'm back because I never went anywhere. And
Yeah.
I think that's what separates me from a lot of people. And I just don't stay attached. I have zero attachment to being misunderstood. If I show up messy and I say something that's perceived as not the right thing to say, which happens a lot,
All the time.
It's because I'm a bold, like opinionated person who is not afraid to put those forward. And so it will happen. And I just don't have an attachment to people thinking, oh my God, what a horrible person, block.
Yeah.
If it happens, it happens. And the thing is, you can trust that it will happen. So anyone listening to this, you can be your most vanilla version of yourself right now. You can be sitting here thinking, well, I never say anything anyone can disagree with. That alone will make people block you, unfriend you, and be like, she doesn't stand for anything. So then my question to you is, I guess I'm asking questions now. What sits better with you? Like, what feels better for you, to stand for nothing, be vanilla, and still be confronted and attacked and challenged, which will happen the more visible you become, or to actually be who you are, fully have a brand that expresses your identity as an extension of you, and then deal with the consequences of that, because there will always be consequences, but you get to choose which ones you receive.
That's such a mic drop moment. I think we could keep going forever and ever. What an amazing chat. There's been so much that we have covered in this. So I'm interested to see what people think of some of the topics that we have raised and the opinions we have put out there. It's going to be interesting to see.
No, this definitely went deeper than a lot of the 99% of the interviews I've ever had. So I'm very excited. And I also wanted to say thank you, because I don't take any invitation for granted, and I don't think this was an invitation that was like, well, of course, Albert. It was, you are very selective with this.
Yeah.
And so thank you for bringing me on. I think this is been a beautiful conversation, full of a lot of depth, but also a lot of polarizing topics in a good way that are going to open up some minds and definitely start some conversations in different groups and communities.
Yeah, definitely. I can't wait to find out about them in 3 years' time. Amazing. Awesome. I will speak to you very soon.
Bye.
This podcast is a window into the conversations I have every week with the leaders I work with. If you want to be inside that conversation, not just observing it, you will find the Actual Results Club and my one-to-one work linked below.